So it's like, you got to be quick. You got to be, very convicted in what you're saying. And that's what you see the top people that everybody follows. And I think that just comes from experience. And it's also kind of like, what I was sharing earlier, like I believe in like two terms nowadays. It's like, I think being humble is making people poor. And I think people should be more arrogant.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Report. Today, I am super excited because I got a repeat guest. I got someone who I have not connected with in quite some time, but he was out here last summer for a podcast and a meetup. We got to go out afterwards and have a good time. He's out from St. Pete. I got my man, Ryan Magin. Ryan, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rich. It's always a good time out in San Diego.
Yeah, dude, we had a freaking great time. You were at our, I want to say July or August meetup last summer. And we went out afterwards. I think we went out to like Sidebar here in Gaslamp, went out, ripped it a little bit, had a great time. But dude, it was a good time connecting, man.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Then you reached out and you're like, yo, come back on. And I was like, sweet. I know I was trying to make it work. And like, I've had this week has been a little messy with travel, but I'm glad to, be able to pop in. And we're heading to like Utah after this, which I don't mind Utah, but San Diego's a little nicer than Utah.
Oh, it's not even comparable, man.
It's very tame in Utah. Is the
and you survived like a couple hurricanes out there in Florida, right?
Yeah, we lost our house last
you guys had
year.
A full loss?
Yeah, we had a
Dude, I'm so sorry.
I still don't even think I've mentally like it happened so fast. I was out of town. I was filming with Brandon Carter actually. Hurricane Adelia hit. It was like some freak hurricane. It was like super high tide. It was like a full moon, and it was like a king tide, which happens like once every 3 years or something. All of it happened at the same time, and it was like a 12-foot or something storm surge, which has never happened before. And I mean, I do live in a flood zone. I live across the street from the water. This is something you sign up for. I mean, I knew it was a possibility, but yeah, we had just paid our 6-month rent or mortgage per se. We had just paid it. And we got close to 3 feet of water throughout the whole house.
Damn.
Over $200,000 in damages. We lost everything inside for the most part, like 90% of our belongings. Will say though, I was very happy to, I guess the best way to put it is not be poor, because I was able to speed up the process, because what people don't tell you is like you're waiting on a lot of insurance to happen, and it is very slow. And we had a really good contractor, my friend Tim and his company. They came in, they worked with Paul Davis, which was a restoration company. He took care of everything, and we moved real fast. But it was basically because I was able to almost weekly give them more money so they could buy the materials, and then I would reimburse from the
insurance company.
But you don't know what things are going to cost until it happens. Like,
yeah,
we got really set up on the house. Like, we had a really good flood policy, but what we didn't have was a great contents policy. We inherited the contents policy when we bought the house, because we bought on a 30-day close, and we bought it really fast because we wanted the property. And what that meant was we only got $20,000 for everything inside of our house, which Kristen, she lost her car. Her car was totaled. My golf cart was totaled. 3 electric scooters were totaled. Our couch, our furniture. This is where I sound bougie as hell. About 5 to 10 pairs of designer sneakers were ruined. Like a lot of Kristen's clothes, which was very nice. I mean, $20,000 was just like a drop in the bucket for what we had to replace. And they didn't even look at it. The guy came in, just wrote us a check for $20,000. But a lot of it was, I learned really quickly. It's like, if you have money, you can. It's nice to know it's there, because like if I wasn't able to, give my contractor the money when he needed it, and he was great. He was working with the insurance company, but like he was able to really speed up the process for us, and he did an excellent job. Like, and also too, it's like you got to kind of work the system a little bit, as far as like, you can't get this, but you can get this. You can't get this, because it's like new and like is like what they want you to replace with.
Mm-hmm.
But like, we didn't need sliding glass doors because they were vinyl, so we got flooring. So it was like he was able to really help us like pick things out that were good. And I mean, I will say our house is beautiful now. We got like an amazing, basic, completely upgraded house. I think we gained, we got to get it re-estimated, probably, I would say close to $100,000 in property value.
And so, net, and first of all, I'm sorry that this happened to you and the wife. It's never a smooth thing to go through. And even if you recoup all your funds, you're still out all the time, and the headache and the stress of losing everything, and the opportunity cost of having to put all your attention into that versus growing your business, or versus growing the relationships with the people around you that you care about. And so I totally get it. But I'm curious, did you guys recoup all your funds?
Yeah, I
all
mean,
said and done?
to a degree. I mean, we're still fixing the house. I mean, it's like now we're on to like the landscaping, which now it's all like what we want. It's out of our pocket. I mean, all the insurance was recouped. All the money that I put out was, majority recouped. But like, we probably went in another 30,000 just on new stuff, because it's like, I don't like to upgrade with the same. I like to upgrade with better, So it's like we went nice car, and this is like what I
And
would
whenever you,
consider.
like, upgraded the better stuff, that's the new baseline,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then that's a new baseline level, and then there's a new level and a new level, but that's just how the game works.
Yeah, I mean, we did, we like Crate and Barrel, which isn't
Okay,
cheap,
yeah.
so we got a Crate and Barrel couch, which was like $8,000, and I was like, okay, this is a great couch. I don't really think it's any better than the IKEA one that we had prior, but I mean,
Mhm.
the wife likes it, so it's good.
Yeah, and so the important takeaway, I think, for the listeners is, like, the insurance claims are very challenging, and that's residential. Had that been a commercial property, like, likely you wouldn't have been paid out yet. We went through some flooding out here in San Diego. San Diego had the most rainfall it had ever seen on this one day in January in like 45 years. And the streets out here are just not built for that kind of rain. And so this podcast studio got flooded out. Half of the buildings downtown got flooded out. Even the new building that I live in, Simone, it's a brand new high rise. I had water damage in my hallway up on the top floor, and this is a brand new construction building. So our hotel, one of our boutique hotels here that we had just renovated and did the grand opening on, totally got flooded out. 4 of the units, actually, I'm sorry, 6 of the units got affected. We had to shut down the entire hotel, and it cost us about $500,000 to between the loss of income and all the restoration and all that to get it back online. A total net loss of about $500,000 in insurance still has not paid us a dime. And so residential abides by a different set of rules in the insurance game. Commercial is like the wild, wild west. They have adjusters that work in-house, and they will find every single angle to not pay you out. My biggest takeaway, if you do have a big loss in the insurance game, is you got to hire a public adjuster right out the gate and have them go to bat for you. Now we're working with the legal counsel that specializes in going after these insurance companies. But it's interesting because you could be paying a lot of money for your premium, but there's certain things that they will try to get out of. And so a lot of it is how you relay the message of what happened. And so these adjusters know exactly how to frame certain things to make sure that you can maximize your proceeds. And so I would say if you're out there and you have a big potential loss, especially in the commercial space, it could be multifamily, it could be boutique hotels, it could be retail, office. But if you have a big loss, I would say go bring on an adjuster and have them go to bat for you because they're the experts and they know how to win these battles.
Yeah, it was also too like I guess the mental like anguish of the whole scenario. Like it didn't hit me till probably like 6 months after it happened, because you just keep going. Like
Yeah.
as men, you just keep going. You're like I just kept making money. I just kept making videos. I kept traveling. I
Yeah.
kept working. Like I mean, almost 6 days. I think it was like 6 or 7 days after it happened. Like I was in Germany speaking. And like I had to put, my family went into a hotel for like a week, and then they, my wife and my daughter, like they stayed with a friend for a couple of days while I was in Germany. Then we came back. Then we had to find a short term rental with fully furnished, which like for a while there, I was still paying the mortgage because we chose to not forbear the mortgage at all. So I was still paying the mortgage, which my mortgage was like, I think it was like 5,400 is what we
Hmm.
paid for our house. And then I was also paying 5,500 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, or no, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, fully furnished apartment in our downtown area for us to live in, which was wildly impractical for, a family with a daughter and we had just got a new 12-pound, dog, so it was definitely plus I made some videos about it and it did not go well.
About what?
My experience with the hurricane.
Really? Why didn't it go well?
Well, there was a GoFundMe started for me, and I found out really quickly that when you publish your earnings on the internet as to what your company makes, which I do, I'm very transparent about what my editing company and my media company makes. It's up to almost $3 million to date. I don't keep all that, as you run companies. Like that's not just sitting in a bank account. So I have like $60,000 a month expenses that are being paid for by me, like 15 full-time livelihoods. And one of the girls that used to work for me, she started a GoFundMe, and I didn't promote. I didn't know that it was going to be a good. I was like, I don't know, but she did it anyways. And Luis, helped her do it. And it made like $4 or $5 grand, which was great. Paid for 1 month. But the anguish of like for like, it felt like a month. Every time I posted a video, and I post like sometimes 2, 3 a day, it was like, you're a piece of shit for scamming your fans for,
Mm,
you're a millionaire and all this shit. And
mm.
I was like, wow, it was the first time. And then I got really obsessed with GoFundMe's, at like which GoFundMe's do better and which ones don't because of psychology. And funny enough, not funny, but I I can look at the person that's attached to a GoFundMe and know how much money that person's gonna make. But if you're public on the internet and you're perceived as a certain way, you ain't getting your GoFundMe's not gonna do good.
Yeah.
And it was
No, for sure.
and people just didn't like it. And I was just like, man, I'm just like, I nobody was there for I had 2 conversations with my daughter, and my daughter's 8, and she lost all of her stuff. Like, and it was sad. Like, I had 2 conversations with her, one before we saw the house because we didn't know what it was gonna look like and, what she could expect. I had that conversation with her before we went to bed. She cried, like I cried. It was awful. And then I had another conversation with her as she saw her room for the first time. All of her stuff was destroyed. And, it's dolls, it's replaceable, it's clothes, but it's like, and then we had to pull all that stuff out, put it on the street, and like people were looting like our neighborhood.
Mm,
Like it was like an emotional like roller coaster of that. And like I made some videos about that where maybe I was angry.
yeah.
Like, in hindsight, we ended up taking those down. But yeah, it just didn't get received well. So I haven't really talked about it, but it was definitely a challenging time. And if anybody goes through that, like I would urge people to slow down because you're moving so fast and you're making decisions. Like I don't think we should have picked the place that we went to live for 6 months. I think we could have found something better, but I was just moving fast. Like, hey, fuck it, it's $5,000. Let's just get in there. I want you guys to be safe. I got to go on this trip. Like I got to
You
keep
got to
making
keep
money.
moving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, because the only thing that's gonna fix this situation is money.
Yeah.
And I said, I got to keep making more money. So that was kind of the mindset I
Yeah,
had.
every time I've faced a challenge in life, and I'm facing challenging stuff all the time, putting out fires left and right. It's one thing I've learned through entrepreneurship, and you know this better than I do. It's like things are never as good as they seem, and things are never as bad as they seem, and everything is temporary, right? The second you get complacent, you think, oh man, like I just unlocked a new level, you're gonna get smacked in the face, and that's just how life works at every single level. But the one thing I've learned is like you just got to keep grinding, you got to keep thinking forward, and you got to keep pushing the ball down the field, and that's just how it goes. And you keep doing that over and over, and you're persistent. You don't give up. You'll get through anything. Question for you, because out here in California, when they had the rainfall, they did a disaster relief program, and so the government went out and said, hey. If you were affected by this, you have the ability to go out and get very low interest SBA loans that I'm speculating, but a lot of these, financial stipends from the government sometimes often will be forgiven down the road. Did Florida do anything like that?
We had some FEMA disaster relief.
Okay.
If I had to total it up, I'd say we might have gotten 15 grand.
Okay.
Like
So you guys did get some.
a
And was that
little
an
bit.
SBA loan where you had to pay
No,
it back?
that was purely through FEMA for
Got it.
disaster relief. They were throwing money at us.
Mm.
And there was all kinds of little things. And again, I would urge people to read the fine print. Like we didn't take any SBA loan. We didn't take any of that. A lot of it would have been like really low interest, but there was like stipulations. Like you couldn't, like I forget I got to hand it to Kristen. She really went to bat for all of that because I was traveling and working. Like we had a few conversations where it's like, does it make sense for us to take this money? And I was like, well, if we do this, we can't get this. And if we do that, we can't get that. And we ultimately just decided we didn't need to take it just because, I was doing well. And it's like, even though it's coming out of pocket, it was like, I'm not putting myself, us or my company in any jeopardy by fronting this money right now. So we just decided against it. But I will tell you, there's no such thing as free money. And I learned really quickly that just all we really wanted help with was the reimbursement of our displacement. And that was entitled to us. And we still never we were out for 6 months exactly. We only got reimbursed for 3 months of the $5,000 a month for the apartment. The rest of it, it was so like Kristen had to go into this portal online and it was like you had to talk to somebody and it was just this mental and emotional. Every time she called, like she'd hang up the phone crying. Because
Yeah.
it's like it's always like
Dude, that's how it works, man. It's like the insurance company, and then also like the disaster relief funding. Like, and I got a buddy that he used to do these SBA loans for disasters and stuff like that. And he told me like 2 months ago, he's like, bro, the only way you're gonna get the funding is if you or someone from your team calls them every single morning and emails them every single morning And it's not like to be annoying. Like, you got to fucking pretend to be their friend. You got to hype them up. And if you don't, he's like, they have no incentive to fucking fund these loans for you. Zero. And he's just like, that's just how it is. He's like, it's like the DMV. They don't care. They're working on freaking a low salary. They're not incentivized. They don't have any commission to push these loans through. He's like, if you don't blow them up and fucking pretend to be their friend, he's like, they're not going to fund it. And so every single morning we've been pushing and pushing and pushing. And then 2 weeks later, they'll be like, oh, now we need this, And it's like, had we never like hit them up, we would have never knew that we needed it. They needed anything. And so now we're at the 1 yard line. But I told the team the other day, I'm like, look, guys, we hustled, we grinded, we figured it out. And our investors never missed a distribution. They still got paid out. We didn't get a dime from the insurance company. We didn't get a dime from the disaster relief funding yet. But like, even if we don't see a dime, like, we're still fine because we grinded and we figured it out. And I think the takeaway for the listeners is like, no matter how bad things seem, and I lost a couple team members like during the middle of all that too. And it was like really overwhelming, but we figured it out. And so I think the takeaway is like, no matter how bad things seem, like, you just got to keep going and you got to keep your head moving forward and pushing the ball down the field. And as long as you're persistent, you will fucking figure it out. Like, when in your life, and this is myself included, if you're listening to this, like, think back in your life when your back was against the wall and you really wanted something bad enough. Like, when did you not make it happen?
Yeah, I mean,
we always figure it out.
Always figure it out, and that's I think most people are like that. I mean, I think some people can get kind of lazy, but like in this situation, I just looked at it like, I need to get more clients, I need to do more work, I need to get more views, I can't stop.
You need to reinvent yourself.
Yeah, and like, this is just a challenge, and like, people were shocked, like, because I would tell people, and they're like, also one of the biggest things too is like, when, like, probably in the same way you, like, when you deal with like some sort of disaster like that, or like, because obviously we didn't ask for that, like, we didn't set ourselves up. Yes, we lived on the water, but like, nobody expects to lose your entire home, overnight, and it was like within 6 hours, and it was just, and what really messed ours up was, it wasn't just flood water, it was basically shit water, because what I didn't know, I learned all these interesting facts about hurricanes, is the city dumps all of the pipes into the ocean before of all the surrounding areas when there's a hurricane on the horizon, because they know that if power gets shut off and water gets shut off, then the sewage is going to back up. So they clear the pipes. So, well, when storm surge comes in, it pushes all that shit water back into that's the flood water.
Damn.
It's considered class 3, like, I forget.
Is that a potential lawsuit?
It is. I mean, but that's where insurance comes in, because they replace everything. Yeah. Anything the water touched, they said needs to be replaced. And then the insurance, I will say, I did not, like, although it was slow, it was very, I mean, they did exactly what they said they would do. It was all the ancillaries around that became the issues, and that was just odd, because it's class 3 floodwater, which is basically has human feces. And
dude, that's nuts, bro.
And I did, like, one of the video I did make that I thought was a great video was, what I saw people doing is, because insurance requires you to pull all the stuff out of your house and put it on the curb, take pictures of it, so the insurance company has record of all your belongings in one place. Obviously, you drive through my neighborhood, there was some big piles, like, devastation. Like, there was houses that caught on fire when the power, like, came back on. Like, I mean, it was bad. Like, I think 500 some homes were affected. And, you see these big piles, and then you just see people pull up and they start rummaging through your pile.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at first I was like, whatever, like, not a big deal. But then you just start seeing it, and like, these people, they weren't nice people. Like, I guess they got to do what they got to do to make money, but they were taking it and they were rinsing it off and putting it on Facebook Marketplace. So the video that I made was like, if you recently had a natural disaster in your area and you're buying things off Facebook Marketplace, know that it's basically looted and stolen property, because it's not technically stealing, because you're throwing it away, which is where I got a lot of hate on the video. But it's like, it is like the Band-Aid is freshly ripped off. You just lost all your stuff, and these people are coming up looking at all your stuff going, you're throwing that away? It's like, well, yeah, but yesterday it was like in my living room and I enjoyed it. Like, and you have to throw it away to get the insurance claim. So it's like, you can't keep it. But I remember, like, I mean, I have, protection in the house, and there was a few people that I'm like, you need to leave right now. I don't give a shit if you come back after, like, when we're going to be gone at 6 p.m., like, when it gets dark, like, come back, take all you want. I said, if I see you here right now, you're going to have a problem. Like, and because it mentally, you just couldn't, like, like, she was crying, like, my daughter was watching people take her toys.
Right.
Like, and I'm like, come on, guys. Like, it was just no respect. And then I'm like, you're just going to sell this shit written stuff on Marketplace? And then there's people going to buy it. I was like, I think that's fucked up. I still think it's like, if you're one of the people that does that, I think you're a piece of shit. But like, hey, everybody's got to make money.
Yeah. I mean, I think back to and I was very young. I was probably 7 years old when this was going down, but the LA riots in '92. I remember watching the riots on the news, but it's like the first thing that happens when all these like disasters happen or rioting is like then the looters come out and they're like, "Yo, I'm gonna get my come up," and that's just fucking what happens. I mean, it's sad, but it's part of the game and it is what it is. So, anyways, dude, so I see you working with Grant Cardone again. You're working with all these folks in the creator space. And tell me what the fuck you've been up to over the last year,
Yeah.
man.
So, I mean, the agency, so for those listening, like I have multifacets to what I do. People always wonder, like, what does Ryan Magin do? It's like my main source of income, as you know, is we do short form content, which is essentially a media company. We work with what I would consider A-level influencers and some pretty large brands. An example of that would be Grant Cardone. We work with, Flagrant Clips, Modern Wisdom. We work with top podcasts. We provide all the short form content that they post on their platforms. And short form, as you know, has just gotten huge. So
Yeah.
everybody needs this. And we had what was considered the first agency, as well as me and my team created the subtitles that everybody eventually ripped off and stole and infected the internet with what is now these obnoxious subtitles on everybody's videos. But that part of my business, which is considered viral edits, we're doing a little over $100,000 a month in that. And then I also have Ryan Magin Personal Brand, which I do a lot of affiliate stuff. I do a lot of, I have a coaching group, Ryan Magin Brand, consistently is doing, 20, 30,000 a month on that aspect. Plus I have a studio, which we just opened in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's not really public, but it's similar to yours. We have it's specifically designed for short form. It's called Attention Media Group. And that aspect is not very making much money yet because we haven't really promoted it, but that is going to be like workshops, studio space rentals, and helping people, more local people do their short form content. And, it's just busy. We have a full service agency. So myself and Luis, who's here with me, we tend to travel a lot. Like after
This is not the done with you, it's a done for you.
No, yeah. I found that done with you only gets you so far. You can only charge so much for it, and then people tend to cut you really quickly. I did take a lot of inspiration from, Alex Hormozi. He said, you want to make yourself unpluggable to where like if somebody unplugged you from their business, it's very hard for them to get back to baseline. And we have that because we provide essentially virality and views and attention, and it's so important. Views and attention are essentially attached to people's bottom line and their income. So when attention drops, their money drops. So when attention's up, their money goes up, which is why I don't really understand why people don't try to go viral. It doesn't make sense to me.
We do. I mean, every time we record a podcast, I will meet with the content team and we'll sit down typically Thursday mornings right after, because we record on Wednesday afternoons. And sometimes we'll do 2, 3, and sometimes even 4. So Thursday morning, when it's still fresh in our heads, we'll sit down and be like, okay, what's the title of these episodes? And what are potential clips from each episode that could do well on social? Sometimes a guest will come in, there's 10 fire clips, and all of them will do well. Sometimes a guest will come in and there's none. And, if there's not any potential clips that will do well, we don't force it. We'll just focus on other episodes where there's a little bit more. And, we'll comb through these clips. We'll go through them multiple times. And sometimes this might mean going through 5 or 6 versions before we put that clip out, because that's going to give it the best possible chance to go out and do good. And we might take a hook from minute 17 and we might take another clip from minute 45 and mesh those two. And it might sound like one conversation, but this is what it is going to give it the best possible chance to go on social, because the idea is to grow. If a clip goes viral on social, we know, hey, we're going to grow our social media platform, but we're also going to grow the podcast.
Yeah. And I love that. And I feel like people just like hide, like they don't want to say that. And that's like,
They don't want to say what?
That their sole goal is attention. Like, and I don't know why, because it's like you have like 2 different camps, especially in the agency space, I guess, is where I roll in deeply. It's like you have the people like, no, we make the right content for the right audience. And then you have no, I make content that gets a lot of views and everybody fucking sees me. And then the money just kind of figures itself out, because I've never been in a situation where less attention paid off for you. Like, and especially like when I work with somebody like, Grant, or like even like Modern Wisdom or Flagrant Clips, or, we're working with the biggest of the big. Like the conversations with me are not like, Ryan, we need to make this content make money. It's like, no, we already make money. We need more attention. We need to be everywhere, and we need to be everywhere at all times. And we'll do, what do you charge to do that? And how does this work? And, that's just kind of the world that like I came up from. I was just like, this makes sense to me, so that's what my agency, I mean, shit, it's in the name, Viral Edits, like it's not really editing that makes the magic what you're saying too, what you're experiencing, we have two different sides to our agency. We have, clippers and we have editors, and like the clippers,
And that's identifying the clips.
yeah, that's
and
identifying the
then
clips.
teeing it up. And then once it's ready to go, it just needs the subtitles. Then
Yep.
you pass it on.
Subtitles, maybe the occasional picture, maybe some,
Some B-roll.
some B-roll if necessary. But we stopped using a lot of that, like, because if you've noticed, a lot of the edits look the same. So I want my edits, at least, what people see from us, I want it to look ugly. I want it to stand out. So like we've gone to like a very minimal style, and essentially
What do you mean when you say you want it to look ugly?
because everything looks so polished on the internet now. And it's like when you see polished, it's like, oh, what are they selling me? Oh, this guy's going to try to make money from me. Or, oh, where's his course? How do I buy his course? So it's like we just want to kind of fly under the radar of like, no, we're not selling. This is just a casual video, because that's what you see. Like we're seeing a shift. And just for context, I mean, we post around 100 videos a day across. We have 18 clients. They each get 2, sometimes 3 videos a day. So on average, it's 100 videos a day. 3,000 to 4,000 videos a month are posted, manually posted. We don't believe in softwares because I can assure you, if you're using a software, you're losing views because of it.
Why is that?
I don't know. I feel like the platforms just want you to work a little bit. They're like, oh yeah, you want to schedule out all your content for the next month? Yeah, we'll just punish you with bad views.
Well, I think that's true, but the reason I think that's true and it's not what you mentioned is because I think when you manually post something every single day, you're going to put a lot more effort into it because hey, this is going out right now, but also you learned something from the post the day before, and you learned something from the post that you did 2 days ago. And so this go around is like another at bat. And because it's going to go out immediately to the world and not 30 days from now, you're going to put more effort into the caption, and you're going to put a little bit more effort into the cut, like a little bit like trimming. I might trim something and be like, hey, you know what? Let me cut this out before I post it. Now, if you schedule everything out 30 days in advance, like you're just going to be like, just trying to get the work done. And you're like, oh, it's 30 days from now. I don't care. I'm just trying to like cross this off my list. You see what I'm saying? And so that's why I think when you post daily, you do it manually, you're going to get more views.
We have a posting position in my company. Like, so we have clippers, editors, and then posters. And the posting position, it's such a unique thing. And it's like, you would think it's very easy to hire somebody. All you do is post videos all day. If I had one person posting for my entire company, on average, it takes 5 minutes per platform to post and then come up with some sort of, witty caption, and we do, I do put that.
And you put it on the story too after you post the feed?
Sometimes some of the clients want that, some don't. Like we have SOPs basically for each client, because each client that we work with, that's another thing too, when it comes to like short form agencies, it's like each client like has very specific things that they like, they dislike, they want, they don't want. And with what I'm charging, I have to cater to that. Like, because in context, I charge $6K a month or $10K a month. You're talking $70,000 a year or $120,000 a year. Like, I am more than a full-time employee. I am like, and we're controlling the brand. And I think that's, there's probably a lot of agency people out there that might see this. Like, you have to treat that brand with respect. Like, it's everyone's livelihood now. Like the people that control your content are essentially, they're Rich Summers. Like, they're you. But you're not controlling it. So it's like, it's a very high responsibility. And like, I have this irrational fear of like, why I do put a lot of trust in my posters, and I do try my best to pay them well, but it's a hard job because clients want videos 7 days a week, 2 times a day without fail. This is a machine. The machine cannot turn off. Well, it's like, and there's even clients that want specific posting times, even though we have tested posting times do not matter. A good video will get views regardless what time it's posted.
I agree.
But I do think there has to be a level of like, you're posting 2 videos a day.
But generally speaking, like if you're posting at 1 a.m, you're going to get a lot less views in the first 4 hours than you would if you posted at 1 p.m. Like that's just common sense.
And it's like, it makes sense. You like post in the afternoon, post in the evening. Like that just rationally makes sense. But like with a poster, a person doing this manually, like him or her, like if you want to post at 7 p.m. and it's a Friday and they're out to dinner with their family, like I have clients that get mad that it's not posted exactly at 7. Like, so it's always like, so finding a poster, and I have this like irrational fear of like a poster going, like getting drunk and like posting like a dick pic to their to some big influencer's Instagram story with like a fuck you. And I'm like, oh God, I get sued and like lose my company. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a irrational fear for me. But I do think
Get their account taken down
yeah,
forever.
like, oh God, the turmoil of that. Like,
Could you imagine?
oh, I
I'd be
couldn't.
pissed.
Like, that's why I like, post like it's a position that we take seriously. And like we have 3 people right now that do it in the company. Because like if we had one person doing it, it's like 6 to 7 hours a day of straight posting videos. Like it's monotonous, it's arduous, it's boring, it sucks. Like you're gonna make mistakes just based off of, just pure volume. Like you can't not make mistakes if you're posting 36 videos a day. And like statistically we make very little mistakes, but if you looked at each one, I'm like, well, that makes sense because we posted like 90 some videos yesterday. So it makes sense that we fucked that one up.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
just, and it's right. These are like, I don't know, these are like first world problems that we have because of the volume that we push.
What's working well for me right now is posting a Twitter post in the morning as a reel. And I do that in the morning, and I'll typically do a video at night. And the reason I do that is because I feel like in the morning, people are more likely, especially during the weekdays, they're more likely to be busy, like going to work, driving to the gym, and they don't have time to watch a 45-second video, but they have time to read a 4-second Twitter post, right? And so I feel like those do better in the morning. And then in the evening, I'll do like a video because people are more likely to be home after dinner, hanging out, just scrolling on their phones, and they have time to sit and consume a 45-second video where in the morning they didn't. And so I feel like that kind of like combo works pretty well. And then I feel like if I post, sometimes I'll post 3 times a day, like every now and then. But I feel like you get up in 3 and then 4 times a day, it's like your reach gets drastically diminished.
Yeah, I think to really capitalize on the
Reach?
yeah, like 3 to 4, maybe 5 and 6 posts a day, you got to have a really big following, because you're not reaching your followers when you post. It's going to new people, and then eventually your followers will see it, regardless of the platform that you're on. So it's like when you have like, let's say 500,000 to work with, yeah, it makes sense. Like just post, like just keep posting if you can, and then, but if you're like a starting creator or somebody who's like, just wants to get consistent, like I'm a big believer in 1 a day. Like if you can't hit that, I don't think you should be in business like that shit is, or like trying to make money on the
Yeah.
internet, like, but
1 a day should be the baseline.
yeah,
And
like,
I always tell people are like, oh, that's a lot. I'm like, well, you know what the best way to get used to posting once a day is? Make yourself post twice a day for an entire week, and then 1 a day is gonna feel easy. And then if you're like trying to post twice a day, like, okay, well, the best way to do that is to make yourself post 3 times a day for a week, and you go back to 2, and you're like, oh, this is easy now. It's like going to the gym. You lift heavier, and you go back to lighter weight. You're like, oh, this is easy. I got it.
that's what I tell people. I use the gym reference on content all the time. It's like, you look at somebody like a Cardone, dude's got a lot of reps in the gym. He's been making videos for like 10 years. Like he's been speaking on stages. He is a good speaker.
Hey guys, real quick, the only way this show grows, the only way we continue to bring on bigger and better guests is if you guys rate, review, and share the show. So if you could take 2 seconds or the click of the thumb to review on Apple or Spotify, it will mean the world to me. But more importantly, we'll be able to reach more entrepreneurs and more real estate investors and help them build wealth through this podcast. Now back to the show.
So yeah. So anyways, I believe that's at least what's working good for me. That combo. And I see some people posting 6 times a day. Some people are posting less. But I think for me, that's like the perfect balance is just twice a day. It's manageable. I still run my whole Instagram. I do like all the DMs, the comments, the captions, all that sort of thing. The other platforms like TikTok, YouTube, the team runs it. But for me, Instagram, I feel like it's the most popular platform. It's where I correspond with all my friends, everyone in my personal network. And so for that one, I feel like I enjoy doing it. And that's probably the last one I would delegate.
Yeah, the Instagram's everyone's baby. It's where all the money's made. For the most part, depending on,
Well, it's like when I go out and I meet people, like if I meet someone at the gym and they're like, hey, let's connect sometime. I'm like, cool, are you on social? And it's
What's your
always an
Instagram?
Instagram where you connect. And like, that's just how you communicate with people. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like if I had to categorize the profile, like the platforms, it's like TikTok is like for massive reach. Like that's the way I treat it. Like TikTok's my biggest platform. I still focus my efforts on TikTok mainly because if videos do well on TikTok,
Yeah.
they do well everywhere.
Mm.
It's like I want to make videos that do well with the 18 to 30 demographic, which is still very much prominent on TikTok. And then I focus the videos to perform there. They usually perform there. Then it goes over to Instagram, and then we have YouTube Shorts. And I don't mess with Twitter much. I'm not what I would consider a good writer. And I do believe in just focusing on my strengths. At least, I would by nature call myself a TikToker. That's
Okay.
like kind of how I became.
I feel like TikTok, you got a big audience on TikTok.
Yeah,
I feel like TikTok for me is like the most sensitive platform. So like if it's not a good piece, like it will die off after like 2,000 views.
oh yeah.
But if it's like a good piece, it will send it to the moon and like it might get 1.5 million, you know?
TikTok is brutal. Like TikTok is it's like that coach that talks shit to you in high school.
Yeah.
It's like even if you have a good video, you don't know if it's gonna work.
Yeah.
And so you put it out there, and it either, like you said, either it does well or it just shits the bed. And I like that. It's like brutal feedback. It's like no matter what I think, it's like TikTok will humble me, you know. And it's like, and it kind of creates this emotional, even as hard as it is, because I'm sure you're saying I'm very emotional with my content, like because you put so much effort into it, and like you have a big team. I pay a lot of money to get my content out there, and it's like I have a lot of pride in the videos I put out, and I want them to all do good. And then when it gets like 300 views, I'm like, I want to cry. I'm like, fuck, man, like this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
But it's also so like,
You're only as good as your
Yeah.
last post.
yep. And it's like, oh fuck, man, like I gotta do better. I gotta be better. The audience said this video sucked, so I can either be mad at it or I can get better. And it forces you to constantly not be attached to the types of videos you're putting out. And I think we're seeing that at scale right now.
The good thing though is like the algorithms are set up to a way to where if it's not a good piece of content, it's not your best work, it's not going to show it to a lot of your followers. And if it is good, those ones are going to get shown to all your followers. And so in that regard, it's good. But it always motivates me when I put out a one that doesn't get good reach or it flops. I'm like, all right, let's fucking get another app in. And I'm like ready to fucking post again because I'm like, I can't go out like that.
It's dopamine, man. It's addicting.
It is, yeah.
It is 100% addicting, especially when you get like, you know, we see some crazy shit in my agency because we work with a lot of people that go really, really viral. Myself included. Like my TikTok, it is my biggest platform. To date, I've gotten 170 million views on TikTok.
Damn.
Like that is hard to fathom. And at Instagram, I'm very proud of, I just crossed 100 million views on Reels. And the difference there is just like TikTok is like, man, you get a 10 million view video and the dopamine that you get from that, and like you feel like on a high. It's like if I'm getting like a 5 million, 6 million, 10 million view video, like I'll get recognized everywhere I go that day. But it's gone so fast. Like, and then you're like, oh, it's been a week. And I always joke with Luis, I'm like, yo, it's been like a week and a half. Nobody fucking knows who I am, bro. I'm irrelevant. I'm done. Like our business is over. Let's quit. Like, you know, and then it's like, then you get another hit. You're like, I'll be at Chipotle getting a burrito. And it's like, hey man, I like your videos. It's like, all right, I'm back.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
and I know it shouldn't be like that, but it's like, it's the world that like, the more attention that I get, the more money I've made, you know, and I'm sure it seems to be very similar for you. I know it's similar for all the clients that we work with.
Well, I was like doing cool stuff in the real estate space before I got into the content game. And just over 2 years ago, that's when I started posting on social media. I had like 3,000 or 4,000 followers at the time. And it was just over 2 years ago where I was like, I started treating it like a business, and I started prioritizing the content as the main business, and the real estate business and everything else was like the secondary hustle. And when I started doing that, everything became easier. More leads for the real estate business, more investor flow, more deal flow, access to higher caliber people. Everything changed for me. The ability to go out there and raise a lot of capital for deals. Everything became a lot easier when I realized I was in the content business. And so that's how it's completely changed my life. And so it's true. Yeah. Attention is the new currency. And, you know, for the folks out there that haven't been posting, they feel like they're late to the game. I felt like I was late to the game. The game is just getting rolling, and everything's going to continue to go that way. People are not watching TV anymore. You know, think about the amount of homes out there in America that actually have cable TV and direct TV and all these satellite dishes. It's a very low percentage now. Everything's on the internet, everything's streaming, and most people are now getting their news on their phones on these different social media platforms, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all these platforms out there. But that's where the attention is. And I feel like if you're out there listening to this and you're like, fuck, I know I should be posting, I know I should be building my brand, but I'm not, and you're not gonna do it because you feel like you're late to the party. You're not late to the party. Like, give it 5 years, give it 10 years, and you're gonna look back and like it's gonna be a whole different ball game.
Yeah, we start accounts, all the new accounts, quite a bit. I have an account for myself if you want to check it. I find it's very easy to grow on TikTok, a new account. Instagram's much harder.
Why do you think that?
I know Instagram wants to tell you that they're for the little guy, but the Instagram still puts heavy emphasis on the big creators, you know, meaning like whenever you post a video, it kind of gets a floor. Like mine's like seems to be like 10K. Like I post a video and eventually it'll hit 10K and it'll either do more than that or it just stays there. So it's like, and you see that with like, there's some creators, their floor is like 100K. And it's like Instagram treats that account authority, like how long you've been there. Like I do think they value that,
Yeah.
which I think is valid. I think that's cool. But I do think they should do a little bit more. They can, they can give the smaller creators a little more, chances to succeed. But I think, if you're trying to grow a new account, I would 100% focus on TikTok. I have an account, Ryan McGinn 6. That's Luis made that name. I like to mess about
Is that
it.
like just a backup account or what is
Yeah,
it?
because the biggest thing is people talk to me like, oh, it's so easy for you. You work with the biggest creators and you have 300,000 followers. And I'm like, well, I have Ryan Begin 6 that we started like 3 months ago. It's at like 7,000 followers right now. It's already gotten like 5 million views. There's like 17 videos on the account. Like I've been posting on it for fun. I got a 1 million view video, my 4th video. I got another one on my like 10th video. I got another one on my like 13th video. Like I just like to know that I still got it, that I can start a new account. And yes, this is me putting effort into content, but that just links back to my main Instagram. It's just attention. Now I try to post on that a few times a week, with different, and I think there's like a cultural thing right now. And that's what kind of to answer your question, why Instagram is getting harder. How often do you follow people?
What do you mean when you say that?
Like you see a video, you're like, I like that video. Do you immediately go to the profile and follow that person? I don't.
No, I don't. But
I usually
if I
need to-
see like a video that I like, and I'm like, whoa, like this is really cool how I'm always studying how people do their hooks, and I'm always studying like 4 or 5 creators out there. And I study how they do their hooks, how they do their call to actions, how they communicate and all that sort of thing. And if I see a good video, I'll save it. If it's a random video that just pops in my feed, it's like suggested, I might click on the profile and take a look. And if they have more good videos and it's someone that I'm like inspired by, then I'll follow them.
Interesting, because
But if I go to their profile and it's like that's their only video that did well, and they're like new to the game, I'm like, I probably won't follow.
yeah, you need that. You're like, oh, hit me with like a couple more videos on my For You page. And I think that's like culturally at scale, something that people aren't talking about. And it's why we're seeing like, we track a lot of data in my company because we post so many videos. And one of the most fascinating things for me is like followers per million. And followers per million used to be like, I would go viral. Like I have a 5 million view video. I'd get like 60,000 followers. Like that's what was the basis of like growing my account. I knew like my original offer to my clients and people that are still working with me to this day was like, I'll get you 100,000 followers in 30 days. And I knew to make that happen, this is 2 years ago, mind you, to make that happen, we needed to make them go viral like 5 times, because that meant like 5 times in 1 month and you get 10,000 followers, 20,000 followers. Like, and statistically, it was like, we were able to do it. Like, I think that's why it was 100,000 followers in 90 days. But like, I just knew that like statistically this would work. But now we're seeing like when you get 1 million views, and I don't care what platform, it's like 750 to 1,000 followers. So like the follower per million is driving to the ground, and it's not getting any better. And I think that's why it's harder and harder to start new accounts. I think it's very easy to start accounts and get views and get attention, but to get followers,
I got something
really
to say
hard.
about that. So I noticed like you go pretty wide,
Yeah.
and I'm going pretty wide now too with my content. When I started building the brand, I was very narrow. I was all real estate investing topics. And then I would say over the last year, I've gone wider and wider. And over the last couple months, I've gone really wide. And so now you'll see me do content on like whatever. And, I might do content on the vaccine or Botox or talking about athletes and what they make, and my favorite In-N-Out order and just random stuff, Topo Chico, all this stuff. But I think by going wide, I don't talk a lot about boutique hotels, even though that's my main hustle. On social media, probably less than 5% of my content is about that. But I believe that going wide, you're going to reach a bigger audience, you're going to grow a bigger audience. But also, I think if I just solely talked about boutique hotel investing, the audience that I would attract are people that want to learn how to buy boutique hotels themselves, not exactly people that want to invest passively and that sort of thing. And so I think by going wide, I reach a bigger audience, I can grow a bigger audience, and therefore there's more monetization efforts that will come out of it. So that's why I'm going wider. But I also get bored talking about the same thing over and over and over. And so when I bring on guests that are doctors or athletes, or they like specialize in some random thing, I actually get to learn something that I didn't know, and it's a more enjoyable conversation for me.
Yeah, and I mean, to answer your point, like if you're trying to grow a niche following, like I don't make videos well, I don't say I don't. I rarely, like less than 5% of my videos are about making videos. And that's what I do day in and day out. And I have a company that's designed to make videos, like very good, high performing videos. But I just found that those videos attract different people, and I am thinking more towards 5 years from now, 6 years from now, 10 years from now. Like, what is Ryan McGinn's brand going to be? And I think that that's where you are too. And that's where, like, I mean, we both know Ryan Pineda, we know Cardone, we know Chris Crone, we know all these different people. It's like they just want the wide audiences because if you look at like Gary Vee, you're able to pivot and sell kind of anything. Yes, some stuff might do better than others based on the majority of your following, but I just don't want to be pigeonholed into like, oh, that's Ryan, he makes videos. It's like, well, no, I also run a $1 million company. I do, I like my lifted Porsche Cayenne. Like I like doing CrossFit. Like, I can rebuild a Honda Civic motor. Like I've done a lot of cool stuff in my life, that I could talk about. And it's like, I know that people, I think that's more of a long-term approach because I would say that the followers you're getting now, although where follower per million might be lower as opposed to you doing like a boutique hotel video, the followers now are like, I just like Rich. I fuck with Rich. Like Rich is my homie. I like his content. I don't know what he's going to say. He brings on cool people. He's got access to cool people. So I would say that follower, while they might not invest in a boutique hotel now, you might launch your built line and they buy 5 shirts. And then they might continue to buy 5 shirts for the next 5 years. And that's because they're like, yo, Rich wears that. It's got to be good quality. I like his stuff. He's got good style. Like, I think that is the most valuable thing right now. And most people will push that aside to go, well, I have an account dedicated to helping, content creators get to 10K a month. And it's like, okay, well, what do you do when you get bored of that?
Yeah.
Because you will.
Dude, I totally agree with you. I think there's definitely 2 different types of followers. There's like followers that just followed you based on a viral piece and they don't really know a whole lot about you. They're not going to be loyal. But then there's followers that like literally engage in all the stuff you do. They might listen to podcasts and those are like loyal fans that will translate into a lot of different opportunities. If it's not right now, it may be down the road. And those are the people that, you can monetize for more leads for your business and all that sort of thing. They do convert. However, I want to go back and circle back to what you said before. You said the followers per million views on like a viral piece of content has gone down. I will say the way I've seen it is like if I put out a random piece that does really well, like I put out a reel, it was a podcast clip that went viral on like one of my guests and their boat. He had like a boat that's like a high speed boat that does 100 miles an hour. We're talking about this boat and it went viral. Well, people click on my profile from the boat and it's like all real estate wealth content, but they might be into boating, right?
Yeah.
And so they're not going to follow. But if I do put out a piece that's like goes viral, that's based on entrepreneurship, business, or real estate investing, that's like, oh, well, I didn't know that. And then they click on my profile and all my content, a lot of it has that same basis. They're much more likely to follow. So I have seen that correlation.
Yeah. I mean, because there has to be an inherent level of like education
Yeah.
to get people to drive the followers or an education can be kind of split. Because I think we're moving into an age of purely entertainment because everybody's educating, Like, and not everybody can be a good entertainer. Like you ask good questions, you have a set, like you bring interesting people on. Like not everybody has that capacity. So they're left with just education. And we're seeing an overabundance of education. Plus we're at like an all-time low of trust. Like nobody trusts anybody on the internet. Like I can show a screenshot of like literally my $2.92 million worth of income that's been made from making short form videos. And they'll be like, it's Photoshopped. It's like, will I go to those lengths? Like, I don't know how to use Photoshop that good. Like I do know how to use Photoshop, but like, and there's this inherent lack of trust. And it's like, you really have to earn followers now. And I think people, kind of back on what I was saying, like follower per million, it's like, yes, that boat video you made that got a lot of views. Well, inherently that didn't, let's say that million maybe put 500 new followers on your page, which it probably did. It's hard to like, I mean, I've seen 1 million views where I got like 20 followers and I'm like, what the hell? But when 1 million people watch your video, statistically 500,000 of those people had to watch it from start to finish. Now this is where like I love the algorithm and I like believe in the algorithm. Like I believe in TikTok's algorithm and everybody just stole it. So I believe in the algorithm. Of those 500,000 people, there's probably, we'll say 20,000 that might be interested in making videos. Of those 20,000, they're going to get my video content. There might be another 100,000 that might like cars. They're going to see my car content. So it's like the algorithm will start retargeting you to who needs to see it. And then those videos will start driving followers. So it's like, I think there's a split. You need both. And if you only pigeonhole yourself into one, and I just think people have the skew backwards. Like most people are like 80% of the content needs to be about boutique hotels. 20% can be about like your hobbies and your personal life. It's like, no, I'm like 80% of your content, which is what you're saying to be true, is about whatever you want.
90% for
Yeah,
me.
I would
Yeah.
say I would say you need to split it 90 or 95-5
Yeah.
if you're trying to grow, because you just have to, you know, put yourself in the vicinity of new people. You know, and that's where like there's also like we have a lot of like conspiracy theories on like what makes people follow and things of that nature. It's like if you're an attractive girl, you're gonna get more followers than me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's a given.
if you got tattoos and you're shirtless, you're probably gonna get a good amount of followers. Like there's certain things that like if you got good style, you're gonna get more followers. If you happen to be old and ugly, you ain't gonna get followers.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be harder for you to get.
Well, you got to
those
stand out
Mhm.
because it's competitive out there. And so, I say like, hey, like everyone has their thing. What's your thing, right? It's like, what are you going to be known for? Like Ryan Pineda dyes his hair. Alex Hormozy wears wife beaters and Crocs in like every video, and he's got the big beard. And Grant Cardone's like always like on his jet, right? So everyone has their specific thing. And like let's take real estate investing for example. Let's just be honest, call it what it is. A lot of real estate investors traditionally are like old white dudes that are rocking suits, right? And they're like overweight and they got dad bods and they're balding. Like that's just what it is. And so if you can come into that space and be a little bit different, you're probably going to get more views than the person that wasn't. I don't know how to measure that exactly, but there's got to be some sort of like sway to one direction if you can
100%.
stand out physically, right? So that's one.
Well, I mean, there's like obviously the halo effect is a real thing.
What's that?
The halo effect, I don't know the specific. I want to get the definition right. Basically, the halo effect is that attractive people, there's a bias to attractiveness. Meaning, like, if you are a prisoner in jail and you're standing in front of the judge to get sentenced, there's a reason why the lawyers put them in suits that look good. They don't let them stand up there in their orange jumpsuit because the orange jumpsuit is associated with criminals. Goes back to the halo effect. You're the sum of your 5 closest friends. Who you hang out with is who you eventually become, not only from like internally for your values and beliefs because you surround yourself with them, but also externally. If somebody sees you with a bunch of drug dealers, they're going to think you're the fifth drug dealer. Or it's like there's, if you go on TV and you have a nice smile, people tend to trust somebody with a nice smile. People with nice smiles tend to make them more, happier. It's just like color psychology. Like, blue is trust, red is power. Like all these things kind of play into when you're, and this is like, I geek out on this on like videos. Like, what am I wearing? How am I presenting myself? How am I talking? And then you have confidence. Like you mentioned, the halo effect, even if you look at somebody like a Hormozy or a Cardone, when they speak, do they look like they're wrong? No, they're speaking with such confidence and conviction that you're like, I trust the guy.
Yeah.
Like I believe him,
And that's a big part, dude. Like I have interviewed a lot of people on this podcast and there's certain people that are growing and there's certain people that are not growing, right? And what I notice is the ones that are growing the fastest that come on this podcast, the one thing I notice about their personality when the lights come on is as soon as the lights come on and we're rolling, the camera's rolling, they have another gear. They almost turn into another personality. It's almost like a little bit of acting. You have to have another gear because you're entertaining and you have to be interesting. You have to be engaging. You have to say interesting things in order to grow. And that's just the point of it. Like I can have a great conversation with someone and sometimes I'll get off the pod and I'll meet with the content team. I'll be like, guys, there's no like viral clips in here. There's nothing that will do good on social. So let's not put anything out and that's okay. But it was still a great conversation. In long form, the person that listened to the 1 hour episode was like, wow, there's a lot of value in there. But there's no like punctual things that are going to like do good on social media. But the ones that are growing the fastest, the lights come on, they turn it into another gear. And I'm not saying it's fake. It's just you have to turn into someone that's a little bit entertaining. That's just part of the game.
I think it's like a volume dial. It's like when there's a camera on, you have to turn the energy up. And I try to do that the best I can when it comes to when you ask me a question or when I'm about to respond. I'm trying to think in my way as like, I know you're going to try to clip this. I want to see Rich's team clip the shit out of this because that's going to get me more views and more followers and expose me to more of Rich's audience, which is new people that I don't have on my audience. So it's like when I'm speaking, I want to say something in a way that's going to make those people on the other side of that camera go, what? Like,
yes.
And
sometimes that might mean going back and repeating yourself because you're like, you know what, let me just reframe this. So it's going to come out a little bit cleaner. And that's okay. I mean, this is long form. And so we only get one take. But like sometimes I'll like have an idea and I'll say it. And then I'll be like, let me just reiterate my point just so we have 2 takes.
And that's like, like I've gotten known on TikTok, and even Instagram. I've gotten millions of views, like with man on the street interviews. And people are like, Ryan, I just love the questions you ask. And it's like, I just look at something and I go, and I verbally regurgitate that whatever it is in what I would consider the most obnoxious way possible, because I know I got one shot at this question. An example of this is I had a video get it's almost at 1 million views now on Instagram like 2 weeks ago. It's my friend Nate Barger, he's got 12 cars, and he's got like 6 Bentleys. And I was just like I could ask, tell me about your 6 Bentleys. Like that's what a normal person would ask. But I'm like, what's the dumbest option you bought on this Bentley? Boom. That video got 900,000 views.
I saw that video.
Like
Actually.
it crushed,
Yeah.
and I could have said, what was the most expensive option? It's like, no, that still might have done good just because it's a Bentley. Don't get me wrong. But like, what's the biggest regret you have buying a Bentley? Or like, why do you hate your fucking Bentley? Like, it's how you say things, and I just err on the side of obnoxious. And and I think that's where the entertainment comes out of me when I'm talking to people. And it's also too, like, I'm trying to think about like, what is everybody thinking and how can I convey that? Like,
Yeah.
I want people to watch me and go, man, I was thinking that, and he just said it, and then and also it helps me get better videos for the audience, because it's like, I know you're rich, I don't care, I want to know how much money you make exactly. Like, is that in your bank account? Like, can you show me? Is that like a Wells Fargo account?
That's good.
Like,
you got to dig in a little bit.
yeah,
as the person interviewing.
ask. I'd rather just be told no than like not ask. And I do value. There's the School of Hard Knocks. I've met them. I think they have a really good channel. They sometimes they ask really good questions, and if you're watching this, guys, like, I just think you could go deeper, because I know he's kind of templatized this thing, but I'm like, you're talking to all these people, and that's what we don't understand. Like, street interviews is like cold approaching and dating. Like, it's hard. Like, it's kind of nerve wracking. Like, you're gonna get told no.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna get like shut down, and the bigger following, this is another thing, like first world problems. Like, the bigger your following gets on social media, the harder it is to talk to regular people on the street. Because they're like, oh, what are we making, like a TikTok video? And I'm like, yeah, it's just a TikTok video. And they're like, well, how many followers you have? And I'm like, 300,000. They're like, fuck that, I ain't getting on there. It's like, and so as that starts going, it's like, it gets harder and harder. So it's like, you got to be quick. You got to be, very convicted in what you're saying. And that's what you see the top people that everybody follows. And I think that just comes from experience. And it's also kind of like, what I was sharing earlier, like, I believe in like 2 terms nowadays. It's like, I think being humble is making people poor, and I think people should be more arrogant. And I only say that with some context of like being arrogant. I think you should be what I call factually arrogant. Factually arrogant means like, what have you accomplished? Why should I care about you? And everybody has these things. Like, no matter who you are, you have cool things about you, but the world just forces you to suppress these things. So I think it's empowering to be like, like, how many hotels do you have? How many do you have, Rich?
Yeah, so we have 4 that we have in our fund, and we manage a 5th for a client.
Yeah, so you own 5 hotels.
4.
4.
Yeah.
So 4 hotels. How many people can say that besides huge people? Like, that's a fact. You can be arrogant as fuck when you say, no, I know what it's like to own hotels. I own 4 of them. Like, I would urge people, like, find those things out that equates to your life and your experiences. Like with me, like, you can't, like, I know how to make videos that get 1 million views. I know how to work with the top level influencers. I know how to make $1 million. I know how to run an agency. I know how to manage people. Like, I'm what I would consider, like, people are like, oh, he's very arrogant about those things, because I'm doing it and I have experience. And if I don't raise that volume button and talk to you in a way, I'm not gonna get through. And then you have like being humble. And I think being humble is where people, like, the world wants you to be humble. And then the definition of humble, I don't think anybody in the world has looked up the actual definition of humble. And I will read it to you right now, because if you know the definition of humble, you don't want to be humble. So the definition of humble is having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. That sounds awful. Like, I don't want to treat myself as unimportant. And then there's another one, of low social, administrative, or political rank.
What's the definition of arrogant?
Like, arrogant's pretty bad. Like, that's why I want to put the context on arrogant is like only where you can factually prove I am the best at this, and it's like, when I say that I know how to help somebody get millions of views on their videos, it's because I've gotten almost 500 million or over 500 million views on all of my accounts. We counted yesterday, we've taken 31 accounts. We've grown them over 100,000 followers. 7 of them we've taken to 1 million followers. Like, you can't take that away. Same thing with, like, I know what it's like to run a short form video agency better than anybody, because I don't know anybody doing more volume than I am at the level of performance that I am. you know? So it's like when I talk about those things, it's like, I'm like factually, I've made $3 million. I work with the best clients. You can't take that away from me. Fuck you. I'm the best at this. Like, and I think that's a confidence that if more people adopted that, they would succeed more in life because it would just translate into, you know, they would communicate better. And then if they just stopped forcing themselves, like, you know, I don't want to tell anybody to be an asshole because nobody's going to get far being an asshole, but like, you know, being humble and being like, never saying, like, if you're in a room, there's certain times where you can say what you do and say how good you are. And when that moment happens, fuck being humble. Say what you say.
Yeah, totally. So I think it's a fine line, and it's funny that you brought this up, the whole thing about being humble, because I tell the team all the time, I'm like, guys, we got to stay humble, and that's how we're going to grow this thing. But if you look at my content and you look at me when I speak on stage and all that sort of thing, like, I'm very confident and I'm very decisive with what I say and like my message. However, when I say it's a fine line, it's like when I do certain videos and certain like pieces of content, I have to be humble with how I frame things because social media is, you know, they can turn on you quick. I mean, we were just talking about Chris Crone. I mean, love him or hate him, like the dude was putting out a lot of good content, I thought. And he was growing, but like his comments are bad. Like he's getting roasted all over
We're working on
Ballbusters,
that.
all
We're
over.
working on that.
And so, you know, I think when you come off too cocky, people don't like that. And so you got to inspire. And I always say when I put out videos and stuff, I always got to provide some sort of value. There's got to be a value exchange. So, you know, if I'm doing a video on like my Audi R8 or like the G-Wagon, like I got to provide some sort of value, and I got to frame that video in a humble way. Not like, oh, look at me, like look at this car. It's more like, hey, here are like my 2 favorite and 2 least favorite things about this car, and here's how you can buy one yourself, right? Or here's like a tax break that maybe you don't know about buying this particular car that could save you in taxes, right? And so it's like those little things and those little stats, it's like, okay, now you're providing value. And I always say, like, man, as I grow this thing, like I always want to be grateful and humble, but at the same token, I shamelessly promote myself, and like you have to, right? If you look at the best creators out there, and the best entrepreneurs out there in today's age, they're best at getting eyeballs. The Conor McGregors, the Alex Hormozis, the Grant Cardones, they're great at getting eyeballs and attention and monetizing that attention. So you have to shamelessly promote yourself. However, there's a humble way to doing it. And so I see what you're saying, and I totally agree. Like when you walk into a room, like you should be confident. And I always say, like, if you're not confident, go give yourself a reason to be confident. Action leads to competency. Competency leads to confidence. You know?
Well, it's also too, you know, and I do agree. There is a fine line, and I mean, I'm sure this can be taken way out of context and be like, "That guy's a dick," but like, that's the point. I want you to do that. Like, but you know, when you think about it, it's like, and this didn't really come. I was at a mastermind with Eddie Malouf. He's a good friend of mine now, and it's an expensive mastermind. I'm sure you're a part of big ones. Like this is $26,000 for the year. Like, so the people in this room, you know, including myself, have established something enough to be able to pay 26 grand to be in that room. So everybody in there had a swagger about them. And I was talking to one guy, and he was very humble. Like, and he's like, he asked me, he's like, Ryan, why do you, like my Instagram, my videos, they're just not getting views. And I had already listened to the guy speak. I'm like, you should be getting views. Like, you have a lot of good information to share, and you've accomplished a lot. And one of the things was he had 2 Lambo. Like, and I looked at his Instagram, and I was like, I'm looking for the Lambo. I'm like, where the fuck are the Lambos? And he's like, I don't really want to show them. I don't want to be like too arrogant. I just want to be humble. I said, humble's keeping you poor, dude. Like, let me see your Lambos. You know, and that's where I add the factually part of like being arrogant, because and I asked him, I said, do you not own 2 Lambos? And he's like, no, I do. I said, are they paid off? And he said, one is, the other one's almost paid off. I said, how many people in the world do you think have paid off a Lamborghini? And you almost paid off 2. And he might have even had that one paid off. We were drinking at the time. I could be getting this wrong. But like, point being was like, if it's easily provable, like, and it's your reality, and this is where I think the internet is going. Like I started doing the day in the life videos. Like,
yeah. I like those, by the way. Everyone likes little like day in the life.
Because, but what makes a day in the life video do good is whoever has more interesting of a life, you know, or and you can go on extremes of polarization. You could go on like, I'm sure Grant would have a very interesting day in the life. But at the same time, there's this account called hubs.life, where this guy has a 9 to 5, and he, by nature, is one of the most boring people on camera ever. But he has accentuated the boring. He's so boring, it's polarizing. And then you have like a Cardone who's so rich, it's polarizing. So it's like, you got to like choose your strengths and pick what, you know, what works. And like, I love doing the day in the life, because they over enough time will prove everything to be true if you are documenting enough things. And that's where, like, I don't have to say I have a studio. If I'm in one every day, people, oh, well, it's in every one of his videos.
Totally.
He's paying rent.
Yeah.
He's doing something. He might own the building. He's paying rent. That's his. It's like, he does travel and work with the best clients. So if I show that, like, and this is where it's like, if I was humble, I wouldn't show it.
Mm.
So I would never put those videos out. And
You got to show it.
yeah, and
There's
you're
a
one
way
of,
to do it, right?
like, and you are what I would consider a very high caliber person watching my content. And you're probably the 5th or 6th person in the last 2 weeks. Like, yo, I love the day in the life videos.
Yeah.
It's like they're attracting a very high person to watching my stuff too.
And also because I know you personally.
Yeah.
Right.
And it adds a deeper relationship.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do, and this is where like the content creator in me comes out. It's like, this week I have like a crazy week. Like the day in the life for today is going to look pretty intense. Like I was on a first class seat last night at like midnight, woke up, did cross this morning, Rich Summers podcast, another plane to Vegas for an hour to here. Like, that's a pretty cool day. But that's not every day. I want to equally balance out like the traveling and the cool days with just, like me helping my daughter brush her teeth in the morning, me teaching her how to read better, me, like this stuff, like me going to dinner with Kristen. And that's just something like Kristen wants to get more of my content, but it's also hard when you have a, we'll say, a significant other, because it's like, I'm signing up to be in videos. She's there because she's with me. But she's not signing up to get a day in the life to go viral.
Yeah.
Because that's something too. I mean, maybe you experience it in your life. Like the more you show, and like the internet wants proof, the internet wants transparency. But the more transparent you are and the more money you make, the more repercussions that has in your personal life. The more I've shown that I've made money and the things that, doing what I've done has accomplished for me, the worse my relationship got with my mom. Like, and my friends treat me differently. And, my wife's friends treat me differently. My wife's friends treat her differently, and it's like the internet wants this transparency, but there's also the flip side where it's like, can it even handle this transparency? Because to a lot, like putting your finances out there or putting the inner workings of your company, like you have people building, like live streaming their entire companies now, like day in, day out. Well, like, do I need a live stream when I have to let somebody go? That's like, I have to let them go. I'm taking their livelihood. Like, no, I don't care who you are. Firing somebody's not easy. And I'm sure you've had to do quite a bit of firing, as have I. Like, do I publicly put this in my day in the life?
Right.
Like, I don't think that's appropriate.
No.
It's like, but this is a real thing that like, I mean, these are things that I'm thinking about. Like, the internet wants this transparency and it's rewarding it.
There's a lot of like, I believe that you should put the wins and the losses out there. And I think the more authentic you can be and vulnerable, the more people will relate to you. And so, maybe you don't have that conversation of like, or of this is what I did today and I fired someone, but maybe you say like, hey, here's some of the challenges I've dealt with over the past month. I've had to let someone go and I've had to deal with a flooding at the hotel and this is how it set me back, but this is what I did to push through.
Yeah,
right?
No, I agree. But it's also like, because you see, it's just interesting. And these are, because I love psychology, and that's why like I would urge the people on this, podcast that are listening, like the more you understand human psychology, the better your videos are going to be. Like I would read up on psychology and like, it sounds bad, but how to sell and how to manipulate people and how to do these things, because you will make better videos the more you know. I fell into that world because of the pickup and dating world. Like, because let's face it, you're convincing girls to talk to you. And that was a world that I was deep in for years. And then I also was a very good door and window salesman. So it was like those two skill sets have now turned me into a really good video creator.
Yeah.
And I'd say it factually arrogant. I would consider myself a good video creator based on the track record of my views. So it's like, but like now we're seeing the behind the scenes life of a lot of people. And that's what the internet wants. Like right now, they want to see the inner workings of stuff. And they want you to like strip open the books. And like, I was watching a video about this coffee company that's like bootstrapping my way to having my own coffee shop or something. And he's like sharing its profits, his losses, his nets, and which is cool. Like I'm a business owner, I enjoy that. Like, cause it brings the transparency because it's not just the top line number. But right now that net profit number is very small. The internet hits a point when that net profit is very big. Then it's like, well, why doesn't he hire more people? He could be hiring more people. He could be providing more jobs. He could be doing this. And it's like the internet is very fickle with how they react to what you're sharing. And I don't think we're there yet. I think we're in the build up to this. I'm excited to see what happens, because it's like, same thing with like sharing your revenues and all this stuff. And like, well, I mean, probably the IRS is watching.
Yeah.
Like, these things I worry about.
Right, right. Question for you.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is the most important piece if you had to pick one? We talked about a few. It was like, the way you dress, standing out, the way your personality kind of like levels into a new level when the lights come on. If you had to pick one, and maybe it's the type of content that you're doing, if you had to pick one that's the most important lever to determine your ability to grow as a new content creator, what would that one thing be?
I think it's tonality and conviction, but it's having the tonality and conviction on something that you've actually accomplished. Like, and I think, Luis was saying this to me yesterday. You only really need to be 6 months ahead of somebody to teach them something, and we're seeing a lot of young creators kind of start to pop off because they're just teaching stuff that they're a little bit farther ahead than the average person. Like, but if you have a deep level of knowledge and experience in something, and if you suppress that, there's going to be a kid who's going to push that out faster than you. He doesn't know as much as you, but he's confident in what he's saying enough to convince the people under him. And I think, everybody's focused on the edits, on like the color correction, on like the sets and all these things that they matter to a degree. But what really matters is, what am I saying? How am I saying it? And do you believe it when I say it? And that's why somebody, you look at a Hermosi, you're not going to argue the fact he's not rich. Like, you can Google his net worth and what he sold his companies for. And he talks with this confidence and like stoicism of like, you have to believe him. And then same thing with Cardone. And if you break down anybody that you follow, when they talk, you listen. And if you look at the videos that, if you go to their pages and you look at the videos that maybe didn't do as well as the ones that did, look at their tonality.
Yeah.
It's probably different. It's that confidence, it's that conviction, it's the tonality. It all kind of goes together. But I mean, it's like vocal tonality. It's like, how am I presenting the words that I'm saying?
I agree with that, man, because I'm just thinking from my past experience as a podcaster and creator. Like, when I first started podcasting, I was doing a lot more interviewing and I wasn't providing a ton of value. This is my second podcast, by the way. So I'm thinking about at the first one, I was just interviewing people that were smarter than me. And now when I have a guest on, I know if I'm bringing on a guest, how much value I need to bring to the table versus like if I bring on a Grant Cardone, I'm going to let him do 80% of the talking. But if I bring on someone that's maybe doing some badass stuff in the real estate investing space, but maybe they have 4 or 5 deals and they have some value to provide, I know I need to bring more heat, right? And so I can do that now because I'm speaking from a place of experience, which I think leads to exactly what you're alluding to, is like you're going to be more punctual, you're going to be more convicting, you're going to have more confidence when you speak. And ultimately, that's what those videos do better. They just do.
And I would also add, treat videos treat videos with respect. Just like you wear a uniform when you go to a job. Put care into how you present yourself on camera. Like, these aren't going to be the things that make a video go viral, but these things accentuate the personality of the person in the video. A good example of this is, my friend Brandon Carter. We film a lot of videos together. And every time, like, he fasts for 2 to 3 days leading up to his shoot. So he's as lean as he can possibly be because he knows he wears a lot of tank tops. It's part of his brand to be shredded. So he sticks to it. He's very true to his brand. He also loves designer stuff. So he goes to Louis Vuitton, Gucci, gets all of his stuff tailored. Usually has like 15 shirts ready to go. Like, and this is also from the angle of like, if you're batch filming, you need to, change your shirt every once in a while so it doesn't all look the same. But it's more from like, when you look at somebody like him, it's a mindset. Like, he is preparing to work out for 2 days and film a bunch of videos, and I just think that, there is a level of like spontaneity that needs to be with making videos. Like, you can catch those one-offs, but when content creation becomes your job, which if you're a business owner, content creation, I'm sorry, is your job.
It's part of the game. You got to be shamelessly promoting yourself. You're on camera. And I always think the businesses that have the best chance to grow are the businesses where the founder or the CEO actually is the same person that's going out there and being on camera, shaking hands, going on podcasts and promoting. Because sometimes it's not. But I think the ones that grow the quickest are when the founder, the CEO, is the person that can go out there and sell and hustle and that sort of thing. And also, speaking of comfort and confidence, I've been rocking Built by Basics clothing for the past couple years now. Super comfortable. Been crushing it. The hat game, the sunglasses game. I wear the Mission sunglasses, the Everyday 2 shoes, and the Henley drop cut shirts, the black shirts. Super clean, comfortable, and just like I don't need to overthink my wardrobe every day. I just put these things on. I rock the black on black, super clean look. But Been loving them lately.
No, I love Built. I was asking you about it before I came
Yeah.
on. I was like, yo, I got to get some of that merch because you got your own merch with it. But Built, they got good ads too, man. They got good ads. I see Built.
Yeah, well, and now they're going like, because they were like very hyper like local Southern California, and now they're branching out into different states. They're starting to open retail branches out there, but dude, they freaking love them. So comfortable and just amazing. For listeners out there, if you're interested, you go to builtbasics.com, use promo code SUMMERS for a special discount at checkout. But that said, dude, I agree with everything that you're saying, man. Like, you got to have confidence, you got to have a little swagger, you got to shamelessly promote yourself, but don't get too arrogant to where people are like, oh, this guy's cocky, he's all about himself. Dude, there's got to be a value exchange, and you got to be doing it in a way that are inspiring and educating people and making them walk away from whatever they're watching of you. Maybe they're listening to a 1-hour podcast, or maybe they're watching a 45-second TikTok or Instagram reel, and they walk away from that feeling like, oh, I just gained some sort of value from that, and I have a little bit more confidence after what I just heard from Ryan. You know, I feel like that's the way to grow it, because the more you can focus on that, the quicker you'll grow it. That's me personally.
No, it's 100% accurate. And also too, I mean, you can look at a spectrum, and you can like the past is like a great teacher. Like you look at a Logan Paul, and you watched him, if you followed his daily vlogs for long enough, like what made him into like impulsive today, like he got to the point where he was so desensitized by content that he found himself in the Japanese forest filming, you know, somebody having a really bad day behind him. And I don't want to get the podcast censored. But you know, that basically canceled him. He went too far in this, but he became so desensitized by his content that was where it ended up. And I would urge people, like, I think you should toe the line of where you can go. But again, don't go too far.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. Always great to fucking connect, dude. I'm a fan of everything you're doing, and maybe for the next one, we can connect out at your studio in Florida, dude. I'd love to make a trip out there and maybe go on a little podcast tour out there with some other folks, including yourself.
I gotta take you out to some of the party spots in St. Pete. It's different than San Diego. We got some cool beach stuff out in St. Pete.
I'm down, dude. What's the best time of year to come out there weather-wise?
I mean, it's always sunny.
Okay.
I mean,
maybe August, September?
August, I would say September is probably September, October, like where it's cold everywhere else. It's probably, I mean, you can shoot me a text and be like, what's the weather like for the next week? Like, because no, we have like, I mean, shit, I'm wearing the Don Cesar Hotel. That's where I would tell you to stay. I love their merch.
Okay.
Not sponsored.
Is it a boutique hotel?
Yeah, I mean, it was technically, I mean, it's a big hotel. It's not a Marriott property. It's one of the other ones. But it's right on the beach. St. Pete Beach is like the most beautiful beach. We got like a cool, like underground, like we have bars like PCI, Jimmy B's. They're like more younger vibes, but then we got like just the beach in general. Like you can just bar hop on the beach. It's a different vibe than like Miami, which is like day club, Vegas, day club, nightclub. Like St. Pete, it's more bar and.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's
I
cool.
like that too. So we'll definitely have to make that happen. Where can the listeners get in touch with you, man?
My Instagram's usually where everybody finds me first. It's Ryan McGinn, just my name, and then TikTok, it's Ryan McGinn on there. It's Ryan.McGinn on TikTok, but if you search my name, just make sure you don't fall for one of the hundreds of accounts that are fake made about me. And then I have long form stuff on YouTube again, so search my name. Everything's my name.
There it is. He's Ryan McGinn. I'm Rich Summers. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.